I am Tabou Njie-Sarr. I'm the country director for Westminster Foundation for Democracy, and I'm also the president of the Gender Platform. As an advocate over the past 30 years of ensuring that women's emancipation is achieved in this country, I must attest that it has some obstacles, and up till now we are living the reality. But there are some improvement over the years, but more needs to be done. That I can attest to. Now, if you look at the governance structure of this country, one would realize that the inclusion or the recognition of women in these leadership roles are very insignificant. In the sense that the Gambia has signed the CEDAW Convention, which is the Convention on Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, and also a party to the African Charter on human and people's rights, on the rights of women in Africa. But also a party to the Beijing Platform for Action, and all other protocols and all other legislation that's yet enough to ensure that women are in leadership roles. But much seems to be undesirable, I can say, because if you look at the National Assembly, it is a very important institution in this country. The representation of women are very insignificant, because out of the 58 National Assembly members, only 5 are women. And looking at also the executive, where 22 ministries are established, only 3 are occupied by women. We have made some significant gains in the judiciary. With the Gambia has registered over 40%, but across the board, if you look at where decisions are made, the representation of women need more effort, more concerted effort, and more changes in sociocultural beliefs and norms. Women strive every day to make sure that they are part of where decisions are made, basically in leadership roles. I will use myself as an example where I have attained the level of leadership roles, but it has not been an easy journey. I must attest that it's by virtue of the fact that I know my capabilities. I know what the constitution of the country gives me, the provisions, especially of Chapter 5 of the 1997 Constitution of Equal Representation. But it is a very difficult journey. So, using myself as an example, I am sure other women in leadership positions too felt the same and have faced so many challenges in coming to this leadership role. I must say that it is good for us to rejoice now at the moment. Yes, because in as much as there are challenges, there is the goodwill, especially from men who are part of this journey, and for leaders to be women to be part of this leadership position. One, it creates an avenue for others to build their confidence and dive in. But it also challenges sociocultural norms and beliefs as well. And above all, it contributes to nation building, because men and women are part of this society, and the representation of each is very significant in national development. And by virtue of the fact that when decisions are made, they come back to society, and it affects society either positively or negatively. It is important that all opinions are included in those decisions that are made. That is why it is important for women to be part of decision making. And if you look at a woman is not alone. A woman comes with other dependents, because a woman is a mother, a woman is a wife, a woman is a sister, a woman is an aunt, and a woman is a grandmother. Above all, women are the custodians of culture. That is why it is important for them to be in decision making, because cultures that are passed need to be cultures that benefit society. And if women are part of the decisions that are made, it's not only a woman who benefits, but families benefit, communities benefit, and the country and the world at large benefits. So therefore, it is important for women to be part of decision making, especially when it comes to political participation. for a woman to get to leadership positions or to aspire for leadership positions. One, our socio-cultural norms and beliefs teaches us that women should not be leaders. I can say they don't say they cannot be leaders, but they should not be leaders. In most cases, this is reinforced by wrong interpretation of religion. If you look at the both religions that we practice in this country, Christianity and Islam, always advocate for the protection and promotion of women. They gave women the highest respect. But the wrong interpretation of these measures, I could say, by some interest groups, always denotes the fact that women should not lead. Things are getting clearer now. And there are few women who are given the space to lead. And once they lead, they made success. Once they lead, everybody benefits. But also another factor that contributes to women really relegating themselves behind is inadequate confidence. Leadership comes with responsibilities. Leadership comes with making major decisions. And most of the time, women shy away from those responsibilities, which has happened. But research has shown that this is as a result of the socialization process that men and women go through in this country. Another factor also is literacy level. If you look at the rate of literacy in this country between men and women still lag behind. They're still struggling to come forward, despite all the major measures that are taken by government and also civil society organizations. There's still more efforts that needs to be done to push women to be in front. Also, there is inadequate political will. If you look at our laws, of course, if you look at the 1997 Constitution and all the Women's Act, the Sexual Offences Act, the Domestic Violence Act, all these acts gives promotion and protection for women. But implementation and enforcement of these laws are one critical area that also contributes to women's inadequacy in leadership positions. So the political will is one major factor that renders women relegate themselves behind. And above all, attitude of people as well is another factor, especially conservative men who believe that women should be at the back. But as I said, this mindset is changing, and I am happy that the present generation are very gender sensitive. And I hope and wish that this carries on, because the only way that we can achieve gender equality in this country is for men to come on board. Men have to be involved, because at the end of the day, men are still holding power. Power in this country lies with men. So for them to be gender sensitive and come on board and champion the quest of gender equality and women empowerment, especially women in leadership roles, is very paramount. In this country, especially when it comes to women political participation, women vote. They participate. The problem that we have is the representation of women in major decision making. And by virtue of the fact that, according to the electoral register, 56% of the registered voters are women, gives women the opportunity to vote for women. But this is one area that we are still advocating for and educating. So the best thing that we can do to ensure that women are in leadership positions, especially in political representation, is for women to vote in women. But then a challenge arises there, because as I was reiterating on the challenges, I forgot to mention that women don't vote women. There is this element in women, and as an advocate for the past 30 years, I am still trying to find the answer. That element that why women don't believe in women themselves. This is one critical area that we need to explore and do a research and come up with the finding and see what solutions can we do. Because as we compete each other, man itself is a political being. So that being the case, but the political being in women, I'm sure if we were supposed to measure it, against men. I think the political being in women is more, and I think maybe that is why we don't vote. We don't vote for each other. I'm just saying this. I'm sure if we do research, we'll find more. But this is my perception. So women, capacity should be built to ensure that they vote their fellow women, but also women themselves need to build their capacities as well to be confident enough to challenge. As of now, what we have is not enough. It's not an affirmative action. There is no affirmative action. We should come into political representation on equal footing with men, and which, if you look at it, with the socio-cultural and the lack of education and the lack of money, because our campaign is very expensive. Women will rather use their monies on the family welfare than putting it into politics or elections. Our elections are very expensive. With all these things coming on board, to be on equal footing with men can be very challenging for women. And that being the case, I think we've made some advocacy and made some gains to bring in the Women's Bill in 2021, but unfortunately it was rejected by Parliament. These are the sum up of when you have one sex in dominance in major decision making. These are one of the shortfalls that we always have. And it's rather unfortunate that the affirmative action that we advocated to a private member's bill was short-lived and rejected by Parliament. But there is also room to bring it back. But these are some of the challenges, and women have to come on board, because if that is what we have in our context, and we know that women as citizens are given the rights under the 1997 Constitution to vote, but also to be voted for. There is nothing stopping us from challenging, from contesting, except that if all these barriers that I deliberated on are improved, maybe we can have more women in leadership positions. But also some of the rules need to be changed, because we have to understand that people are different. Men and women are different, have different needs, have different interests, have different experiences, and everyone needs to understand this, that men and women to be on an equal footing. One will be affected in some way, because as I said, we have our different needs and wants and interests, and that need to be highlighted. The awareness of people need to be raised to see development in that perspective, to see gender equality in a development perspective, not as a social perspective or socio-cultural perspective. And this is one area that we are not making gains, and we need to as a country, because the Gambia is 60 years and still women and youth and people living with disabilities really get behind, and it's not taking our development any further. And this is the perspective that we need to champion: gender equality and inclusion. I think one major item that I can contribute towards us is that mentoring is a process, and in this one must ensure that the values of tolerance are taught, but also advancing the cause of gender equality is also part of the process. And when mentoring takes place, the objective is always either changing mindset or ensuring that the person advances and contributes well towards society. And in doing so, one of the values that I suppose should be part of this process is to make sure that the mentees understands equity as well, and tolerance, and have a common goal to ensuring that all perspectives, all opinions are taken into course. The idea of mentorship will not only generate knowledge and behavioral change, but it will contribute towards building a society, because coaching is where you mold a human being. And I think these are the areas that one needs to be in, or one needs to take on board to ensure that the young ones are put on the right footing. The young ones are not part of the wagon, the wagon that we belong, that the cocoon that we belong to, but to make sure that they live to not only the test of times, but they need to contribute generously and effectively with a free mind, not to be molded into people who are very conservative, but people who are very open-minded and think critically and analyze, have the ability to decide on their own, have the ability to look at things in an other way than our generation. Because our generation, I wouldn't say that we've lost it, because at least we have put up young people who are very gender sensitive, young people who really carry on and want to contribute effectively to the world. But the end product, to put an icing on the cake, as I should say, is through mentorship and coaching, and which I think is very important in changing mindsets and also behavioral change and negative attitudes to build peace within the society and contribute effectively to nation building. I think coaching and mentorship will produce desirable young people, men and women, who respect each other, treat each other in a dignified manner, but also taking cognizance of the fact that this country should be governed rule of law, human rights, and democracy. Our core principle as an organization is principle of dignity, principle of equity, and these are our concept. Well, we do our advocacy within the framework of democracy. We have embarked on proactive advocacy by engaging with the key stakeholders, people that are influential, be it from government, be it from civil society, or be it from the private sector. We take note that everybody should be part and parcel of development, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you are a person living with disability, or whether you are a vulnerable person in the society. But also we use the laws to conduct our advocacy. We engage in more capacity building and raise awareness of the situation of men and women in this country, but more so have more emphasis on women, because they are the ones who are heavily marginalized. But we also, in our advocacy, we also tend to remind the people who make decisions as we engage them, that they have a responsibility towards society to make sure that there is a balance between men and women, especially when it comes to opportunities and rights. Our main focus and the best framework that we adopt in all these activities that we conduct is the human rights-based approach framework, and that's one fundamental principle is participation. So we always ensure that there is equal participation in all the activities that we carry out with men. But we use the media more so, because the media disseminates information where we cannot reach. To have a wider coverage, the media cannot do. In fact, the media is our best friend that we use on some of these advocacies that we do, the capacity building. But we also network with other like-minded organizations, because it is always good to ensure that whatever you're doing and others are doing, it's important you collaborate and network to share best practices, to exchange and learn along the way. Over the years, the champions especially champions in advocacy that we embarked on, we have yielded some successes, even though we always acknowledge that more needs to be done, and we always try to ensure that everybody is included and is on board, because as we build this network, then the message is transmitted to other people, and who knows, somebody out there we'll hear and then take it forward. This success story that I always want to say, that whatever we're doing, we are making gains. Because I remember one media personnel came to me and said to me, even though you guys were not around when the Women District Tribunal in Combo North was were being selected, the chief was really given the role to become a chief, because that area was demarcated. So a new chief was selected to be a chief, and because chiefs, the 43 districts in this country, chiefs are always supposed to nominate women, and we have gone on an advocacy campaign in which we register so many successes. Because when we were when we started, there were only 8 women in this district tribunal members, where marriages, divorce, inheritance are decided or are discussed, because this is the local court at community level, and there are 43 districts such courts in the Gambia. And when we started our campaign and did our research, we found out that only 8 of these district courts have women representation, and where marriages are discussed, divorce, inheritance also affects men and women. So we embarked on it, and by the time we finished our campaign, which was a 2-year project, we were able to add 18 more women in other districts, because we went on a countrywide campaign. So this new chief said he's been hearing about including women in district tribunals, and he must make sure that he include a woman as a district tribunal member. It was very touching. That was very touching, because it means people who make decisions are now listening, and they are hearing and they are acting upon. And this is what makes this advocacy very interesting and very liking, because we all know our background. We are a very conservative country, and there are certain things that are not discussed, or when you sit with elders, you don't say it, but at least elders are hearing, and this is the beauty of this crusade. So really, I'm happy that 2025 International Women's Day, we are discussing about issues of women, especially in representation, and gains are being realized, even though we have a long way to go. But I just hope that in 2 years' time we will sit and say, oh, we have equal representation in the National Assembly, in the executive, even though we have realized some gains in the judiciary, which is very good.